In this episode, we talk about the killing of 3 civilians in Jammu and Kashmir, allegedly during interrogation by security forces. We also talk about how a police database was misused to carry out a financial fraud. But first, we talk about what led the government to suspend the newly elected wrestling committee. Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. Last week on Thursday, Olympic medalist Sakshi Malik, one of India's top wrestlers, announced that she was quitting wrestling. This happened on the same day when Sanjay Singh, a close aide of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, was elected the president of the Wrestling Federation of India. Sakshi made this announcement while addressing a press conference in New Delhi along with wrestlers Vinesh Fogart and Bajrang Punia.
एक बात और कहना चाहूंगी कि लड़ाई लड़ी पूरे दिल से लड़ी, लेकिन अगर प्रेसिडेंट ब्रिज भूषण जैसे आदमी जैसा ही रहता है, उसका बिल्कुल सही होगी है, उसका बिजनेस पार्टनर है, वो अगर इस फेडरेशन में रहेगा तो मैं अपनी कुश्ती को त्यागती हूँ और मैं आज के बाद कभी भी आपको
Now, as many of you may recall, some of India's top wrestlers, including Sakshi Malik, have accused Bhushan of sexually harassing 6 female wrestlers and had been protesting against him for months earlier this year. And they only called off the protest in June after they were assured that they would have a significant say in who occupies the important positions within the Wrestling Federation of India. Now, a few days after Sakshi announced her retirement, in an unexpected move, the administration suspended the newly elected Wrestling Federation Committee. In this segment, my colleague Niharika Nanda speaks to Indian Express's Mihir Vasavda, who has been covering these events for the paper.
So Mihir, a lot has happened with regards to the Wrestling Federation of India's elections. Can you give us a background and talk about where it all started and what is the situation at the moment?
So we're talking exactly the entire year. The protests started around January 2021 this year, and they've taken place in various phases. So initially, the wrestlers were out on the streets demanding the arrest and removal of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh as the president of the Wrestling Federation of India. They leveled allegations of sexual harassment and intimidation against him. 6 women wrestlers have complained to the police about his behavior, that he sexually harassed them.
नेशनल कैंप्स में जो कोचेज होते हैं, सभी कोच नहीं हैं उसमें, लेकिन कुछ कोचेज हैं जो फेडरेशन के खास हैं, जो खुद शोषण करते हैं, महिला कोचों के साथ में गलत व्यवहार करते हैं। उसकी मैंने आवाज उठाई है इस बार, और उसके बावजूद भी वही चीफ कोच नेशनल कैंप में लगाए गए हैं, और वही कोचेज जो कैंप में लड़कियां होती हैं उनके साथ में बातचीत करवाते हैं लड़कियों की, शोषण करवाने के लिए ही। और अध्यक्ष जी ने खुद पता नहीं कितनी लड़कियों का शोषण किया है आज तक। The
Delhi police then later this year, after the second round of protests in April and May, the police then went on to file a charge sheet which was up to 1500 pages. And in that they have charged Brij Bhushan under various sections of the Indian Penal Code, and the case is now being heard in a Delhi court. Now simultaneously, while all this was happening, the Wrestling Federation of India elections were also due. Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh had completed the maximum term that he could serve as the president of the federation, so he was anyway not in the fray. But because of everything that was happening with relation to the protests and objection raised by a certain state associations, the elections which were scheduled to be held in August, they were stayed by the Punjab and Haryana High Court. Consequently, the International Wrestling Federation, they suspended India, and then through a series of developments over the last 5 months, we reached a stage where the Punjab and Haryana High Court lifted the stay which was imposed on the elections, leading for the polls to take place on December 21.
Right. And it was on the 21st that we found out Sanjay Singh, a close associate of Brij Bhushan, had won the elections, which also is what led Sakshi Malik to announce that she was quitting wrestling. And all of this happened even though the wrestlers were promised that close aides of Brij Bhushan would not be allowed to contest. So do we know how was this able to happen?
When the wrestlers met Sports Minister Anurag Thakur and also in one of the meetings they had with Amit Shah earlier this year, they were promised by both of them that neither the family members nor the close aides of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh would contest the elections. Now, for the government to actually say that and implement that are two different things, because while they can at least request Brij Bhushan Singh's family member, or by rules, by sports code, the overarching framework that the government has formed for the governance of sport, the sports code makes it clear that the family members cannot continue to rule if the outgoing president's terms is over. But it doesn't say anywhere that anyone else outside the family can't contest. And the government, in that sense, couldn't stop anyone other than Brij Bhushan's family member from contesting. And that is the loophole, or that is the thing that Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh and his supporters kind of latched on to, they played on with, leading to Sanjay Singh, a wrestling administrator from Uttar Pradesh. Sanjay Singh claims that he feels, or he looks at Brij Bhushan Singh as his elder brother. Both claim that their relationship goes back up to around 30 years. Wrestlers claim that Sanjay Singh and Brij Bhushan Singh are also business partners. So all these circumstances led to Sanjay Singh being nominated as the presidential candidate from Brij Bhushan Sharan's camp. Now, he was up against a former Commonwealth Games gold medalist wrestler, Anita Shevran. She seemingly had the support of the protesting wrestlers. But when the day came, since Brij Bhushan has been controlling Indian wrestling for more than 10 years now, there was the majority of the voting members are his loyalists, which led to Sanjay Singh winning the elections very easily. He won by a margin of 40 votes to 7 eventually.
Right. But now what we know is that this victory did not last. Could you tell our listeners what happened after the elections were concluded?
So the new committee did not even last for 60 hours. They were elected on December 21st, which was a Thursday. And by Sunday morning, the sports ministry swung into action and they had suspended the committee. It is very important to understand that they have not nullified the elections or terminated the new regime. They've just set aside them for now. The decision was taken because of a few steps that the new president, Sanjay Singh, had taken. And for now, for the time being, the government has asked the Indian Olympic Association to take charge of the wrestling affairs in the country.
Right. And could you tell us about the steps that Sanjay Singh took and the reasons that the ministry has actually given for their decision?
So the ministry gave multiple reasons for that, but two things topped their list. The first was the fact that they noticed that Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh, the former president of Wrestling Federation of India, who has been accused of sexually harassing 6 women wrestlers, he continued to wield influence in the decision-making of the organization. This, they said, was evident from the fact that the WFI office was still being run from the premises of Brij Bhushan's official residence. They haven't named Brij Bhushan officially, but they used the words former office bearers, which was more than indicating whom they were talking about. It is to be noted that Brij Bhushan's official residence, which is also the office of the Wrestling Federation of India, is one of the crime scenes in the sense that it is one of the places where the alleged sexual harassment took place of women wrestlers. And that investigation is still going on. That case is still being heard rather than the investigation being going on. The Delhi police has filed its charge sheet, and in that they've mentioned his MP bungalow in central Delhi as one of the places where the crimes took place. And secondly, what the government noted is that Sanjay Singh, the president, acted on the instructions of Brij Bhushan Sharan Singh in announcing junior wrestling championships. Immediately after the elections, Sanjay Singh went to Brij Bhushan, he met him, and Brij Bhushan had suggested that the new committee should organize the national championships for under 20 and under 15 age groups before the end of the year. And within a few hours, Sanjay Singh announced the dates and the venue. Now, the venue was Brij Bhushan's backyard, Gonda in Uttar Pradesh, and the dates were supposed to be December 28 to 30. That was seen by the ministry as a decision taken in haste and arbitrarily, since Sanjay Singh did not consult anybody else in the Wrestling Federation from the new committee before taking this decision.
And now that we know that the Wrestling Federation of India committee has been suspended, What kind of reactions did this decision prompt from Sanjay Singh and Brijbhushan Sharan Singh?
Brijbhushan Sharan Singh was summoned by JP Nadda, the BJP president, for a meeting hours after the suspension of the WFI body was announced by the government. What happened in that meeting isn't publicly known, but Brijbhushan gave a few statements immediately after, wherein he said that he'll be retiring from wrestling, he'll not be interfering in any of the activities going forward, and that his association with the sport was done. He regretted, in a way, he said that he might have kind of overdone the celebration after the elections when Sanjay Singh won, wherein especially he mentioned that the use of phrases like dabdaba bana rahega, translated as dominance will continue. He said that might have been a little over the top. The posters at his house, which claimed that dabdaba bana rahega, were removed that evening. And Brijbhushan basically put an end to his wrestling activities. Sanjay Singh hasn't really spoken much. He said he'll try to meet Sports Minister Anurag Thakur. He'll try the legal options available to him before taking any further steps.
Right. Mihir, you had earlier mentioned that there was a 1500-page charge sheet that was filed against Brijbhushan Sharan Singh, and yet we see that nothing substantial has happened regarding that. Do we know the possible reasons behind it?
The wrestlers have alleged that because of Brijbhushan's political appeal in terms of the number of seats that he controls in eastern Uttar Pradesh, from where he has been a 6-time MP. He is currently an MP from Gonda in Uttar Pradesh, representing the Bharatiya Janata Party. The wrestlers say that because of his political connections and the political influence that he wields, there is no action taken against him. And through a series of reports that our listeners can find on the Indian Express website, they'll see that the actual power that Brijbhushan has over the constituency where he comes from, it is essential for the ruling party, especially with the general elections due in 5 months now. So that is, of course, one point where Brijbhushan is indispensable. There were several attempts made by the wrestlers to reach out to the Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, as Vinesh Fogart and Bajrang Punia have said over the last few days. They also held a meeting with Amit Shah where they briefed him about everything that was happening within the federation. They were promised that action would be taken. Late last year, Amit Shah promised Vinesh Fogart and Bajrang Punia that he would try to resolve the issue within 30 to 40 days. That hasn't happened. When the wrestlers protested initially, the Delhi police did not immediately file an FIR. There was a long delay in that. And only when the protests seemingly got out of control from the government's point of view did they intervene, and Delhi police eventually filed an FIR. But as we see, there has been no further headway in it in terms of action taken against Brijbhushan.
And we hear now that the Wrestling Federation of India committee stands suspended. What is the way forward? What do you say is next for the wrestlers and the federation?
So the Indian Olympic Association will form a ad hoc committee, a committee of 2 or 3 people who will take care of day-to-day management of the Wrestling Federation of India. This happened also in April earlier this year after the protests first broke out. In similar fashion, it will take place now. So the ad hoc committee will be responsible for conducting championships, for conducting selection trials, for selecting teams that will represent India in international competitions. And this being an Olympic year, there will be many important tournaments, especially qualifying tournaments. So it will be important to have that structure in place. There is no indication right now from anybody when the decision regarding the new committee will be taken. So until that happens, it will be the ad hoc committee that will be in charge of wrestling in India.
And next we talk about Jammu and Kashmir. Last week, 3 civilians were killed in the valley after allegedly being questioned by security forces regarding a terror attack which had taken place a few days earlier. Their deaths led to a significant outrage in the region and prompted both the People's Democratic Party and the National Conference to speak out against the incident. PDP chief Mehbooba Mufti also hit out at the BJP, saying, "How is this Kushal Kashmir if both army men and civilians are being killed?" Meanwhile, the government has announced compensation for each of the deceased, and the army has ordered a court of inquiry into the matter. In this segment, Indian Express's Amrita Nayak Dutta joins us to tell us more about the case. Amrita, tell us, what exactly do we know about what led to this incident?
So earlier this week, there was a militant ambush on 2 army vehicles that led to the death of 4 Indian army soldiers. And after that, during the search and cordon and search operations, when there were interrogations going on, a few civilians of the nearby village were picked up by the army for interrogation. And allegedly, the deaths of the 3 civilians happened during that time. We don't know what exactly happened. Only a court of inquiry that has been already established by the army will let us know what the actual reason is for the deaths. But this is what happened allegedly.
And Amrita, how unusual would you say is this kind of killing in J&K? Because there have been a lot of terror attacks, but how unusual are civilian killings like this?
So I would say that this is not very common. There have been several instances where this has happened in the past. The most famous one was the Amshipora encounter, which also killed a few civilians in the orchards. So that is also one of the major cases where there is a entire case going on for that. So this is not very common. It was a little bit more rampant in the 90s, but over a period of time there has been a greater awareness about human rights, and the army had also set up a separate cell on human rights. So this is not very common, but sporadic incidents do happen.
And could you also just talk a bit about who these 3 individuals were?
Yeah. So the 3 civilians who were found dead, one of them was Safir Ahmed, he was 48, and his 2 cousins and co-villagers, Mohammed Shaukat, who was 28, and Shabir Ahmed, who was 25. So they are from that nearby village near Bafliaz in Poonch, and their relatives allege that they were tortured during interrogation.
Right, and we understand that on Monday, the Army Chief General Manoj Pandey reviewed the security situation in the sector and also asked commanders on the ground to conduct operations in the most professional manner. But could you now talk a bit about the court of inquiry itself? Because from what we understand, there's a lot of opaqueness to the process and not everything about it becomes public.
That's right. So in this case, there is a different formation that is carrying out the court of inquiry, and it will also include other agencies, words and from other agencies like the Jammu and Kashmir police to ensure impartiality. Now, apparently, this probe which has been set up is a fast track one. It is supposed to be completed in 72 hours, and it will also include why the ambush took place in the first place, were there any lapses. So what we've got to know that there could be some change of command at various levels, including moving out of 2 senior officers from their current appointments because of lack of command and control. But it's only the inquiry report that will establish if there were lapses on their part that merit punishment. So, however, I must clarify that no official posting orders to this effect have been issued so far.
And Amrita, this past year we have seen a number of terror attacks in Poonch. Is this region standing out in that sense? Is it seeing more attacks than other parts of Kashmir?
Yes, so if you look at the data purely, you will see there have been more such militant attacks and ambushes in Kashmir, in the north of Pir Panjal areas, in the Kashmir region, in the valley. But if you look at the kind of incidents which have taken place, more bloody attacks, more high visibility strikes. So in this region, Jammu, Poonch, Rajouri, these regions have stood out. There have been several incidents in the past. In this year also in May, there was an incident here which led to the killing of 5 soldiers. So there have been sporadically a lot of fewer, but I would say more high visibility targets which are intended to inflict maximum damage. So these incidents are taking place here. The reasons for this are many. One is, of course, there is a leadership vacuum in the north of Pir Panjal in the Kashmir area among the militants. So that is understood to be one of the reasons. And the other is these areas lie very close to the LOC. So militants coming from across, they can penetrate through the line of control. It's much easier to do so. And they are more motivated. They have all their logistical resources in place. So the strikes can be more intense and can inflict maximum damage.
And finally, we talk about how a police database was misused to carry out financial fraud. Last week, a 28-year-old BCA graduate named Shyamsunder Chauhan was arrested in UP by the Delhi police for duping thousands of people. And his victims had one thing in common. They were all parents whose children had gone missing. And Chauhan's modus operandi in each of these cases was almost exactly the same. The Indian Express's Arnabjit Sur, who covers crime for the paper, tells us how he did it.
He used to go to this portal which has information about missing persons, missing children and all. He used to scan through the lists of all the missing children across the police stations, across districts of Delhi. And then he used to randomly call the complainants because the complainant's name is generally there, the families. He used to call them and then he used to pose as either a police official or like someone from the missing person's cell. He used to like sort of convince them and like manipulate their desperation to get their child back. He used to say that I'm calling from so and so and I can see your child in front of me. He or she is helpless. Looks like she hasn't have had food and something, or like claim that he's going there to raid, or like he has information on their child. So, and if he claimed the latter, he used to then say that if you want your child back, you please refuel my vehicle because I'm going for a raid. And like your child has been spotted at either Dehradun or Chandigarh. He used to mention random cities. And then obviously the parents would be like, oh, okay, because they have been searching like for their kids like for like weeks or days or whatever. So they used to get convinced, and then he used to say that if you want your child back, you can take your child back from here. He or she is in my custody. I'm here. I'm taking care of the child. Just GPay me or just Paytm me the money.
He says Chauhan used to ask for about 8 to 10,000 rupees from each parent, which for cases like these is not a lot of money. And then once the transaction was done, Chauhan would stop responding. In some cases, Arnab says he would even claim that the child had run away and then cut the call and change his SIM. And in this manner, he would end up making a significant amount of money on a daily basis.
So like basically his job for the day was done. He used to basically call 10 or 12 people at least in a day, and he had a cap of around 15 to 20,000. Like he wanted to earn that much from all the families together. Like of course it was a hit and miss because like sometimes the complainant got his bluff and like cut the call, but sometimes he used to end up earning 10 or 15,000 every day. And once he used to earn that cap, he used to shut his system off because he used to do all this from his rented accommodation he took in Mo in UP, Rani Bagh. So once that was done, he used to shut his system, and then next day he used to scan through the missing children's list again and then call up the families again.
Now, like Arnabjit mentioned, Chauhan was finding out about these missing children and their parents from a database meant for interstate police coordination called ZipNet, which was set up in 2004.
So ZipNet is a zonal integrated police network. So it's like a cooperation that was founded in 2004. It's like a joint venture of 8 to 9 state police forces, like included Rajasthan, Chandigarh, Delhi. It has information ranging from missing persons, missing children, stolen vehicles, stolen mobiles, proclaimed offenders, and everything. Basically, it's like a real-time criminal network that was started as a huge, like a real-time IT that will have information on basically everything. And because the missing children and the missing persons, like the information that now is being manipulated by criminals, it was basically projected as like, if suppose you find a person, you can just call up the complainant and like that'll be about it. He or she can directly contact you. So you can just go there and click the link, and like you'll have a list of people that are missing. It'll have details of the persons, like the police station, the jurisdiction from where he or she is missing, the state, his or her age, the complainant's name, and whatever the description, basically whatever she was wearing last when she was seen, and that sort of stuff.
Now, ultimately, Chauhan was arrested based on the complaint of a man named Markande, the father of a 14-year-old girl who had gone missing in North Delhi's Burari area. Soon after his daughter went missing, Markande had lodged a complaint at the local police station. And it was that very evening that he received a phone call from Chauhan.
On the same day, he received a call from Shyamsunder saying that I have information on your girl and she's in Chandigarh. I am also in Chandigarh and I can see this. She's in a very helpless situation. Please send me 8,000. So he somehow got convinced and he gave him 8,000. And then after that, he went to the police station too. Like he was like, I received a call from this and this person's from missing person cell. So they were like, no, there's nothing like that and there's no such thing and you have been duped.
After his arrest, the police discovered that Chauhan had duped over 900 sets of parents in the same manner. They found this out when they checked Chauhan's Paytm transactions.
So like all those transactions were made by numbers which the police tracked on ZipNet, that do they have missing persons complaint lodged in the ZipNet portal. And after scanning through all those numbers, they finally came up with the 904 families have been duped by him so far. And this is an at least figure, like it can obviously go up. But like that's how they nabbed him, and that's how the whole trail came up, or so many families being involved. But yeah, so like more complaints are being lodged against him as of now.
He says that these cases and others like it have raised concerns about the ZipNet database. According to Arnabjit, it's not difficult for criminals to figure out how to access it.
So not everything is publicly available. I mean, most of it is. Like, so if you open ZipNet's website, apparently it won't open on Apple devices because it sort of detects some financial fraud. But like if someone opens it right now on their basic Windows system, it will open. There's information on missing children. You just click the link on the missing children thing and then a whole list comes up. There's a link called Browse All. If you browse all, there's like thousands of like pages of children missing since like months or days. So criminals can easily access it. It's not like you have to put the dates and all, like for stolen vehicles also, because a similar case happened in August where a criminal used to extort money from complainants whose cars and etc. were stolen. And then he used to say that I have information on your car. If you give me the money, I'll send the car back, or like I'll drive it home, that kind of stuff. It's easily accessible and there are contact details of the person who has lodged missing this thing complaint in police stations.
And he says this is the reason why police officials have now been taking steps to secure the database.
Now, the North District Police has written to the crime branch, which sort of looks at the Delhi police part of the data. And they have told if you could either not put out the complainant's name, just put out the investigating officer or the SHO's name, so that at least the complainants are not directly harassed.
You were listening to Three Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and was produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, Niharika Nanda and Rahil Philippos, who spoke to Arnabjit for the last segment. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.